US equities have held up quite remarkably well through all this, even though other equities like emerging markets and China in particular haven't. Is actually what's needed to perhaps encourage President Trump to pull back a little bit on his rhetoric a more meaningful correction in US equities, because it will hit the US consumer?
Yeah, the equity market could put a pressure on Trump, because if we have now a bear market in the US equity, it could be a good reason for Trump to release the pressure he puts on protectionism. That's for sure. But having said that, as we said just a few minutes ago, the Trump president seems to do what he said and what he promised during his electoral campaign. So he just followed the program, his program. He did tax cuts, and now he's doing protectionism, impose tariffs on Europe and China.
And it just depends. There's the size and scale of the tariff impact, how big that is in relation to the boost that we got from the fiscal stimulus.
Yes.
I've got a chart here that correlates the Shanghai Composite with the Chinese currency and talks about how these two are intertwined. Stocks and yuan, the most correlated they've ever been. We've seen weakness in both. Does this story continue for you? Do you stay away from China, or do you see reasons that maybe this selling has been overdone?
No, what we expect at a point of a time is a rebound in emerging equities, especially Asian equities.
Including China? Including
China as well. Because I think it is not in the advantage of the Chinese authority to continue to put a downward pressure on the renminbi, because we could create a huge outflow from China and they don't want it.
Yep.
So this is why we expect at a point of a time a consolidation of renminbi versus the US dollar, by the way. And it could trigger a rebound in the Chinese equity markets, because year to date, the performance is absolutely disappointing at minus 25% around for Asian markets as a whole. Despite that, we have growth, economic growth, of course, but also earnings growth. At a point of a time, market has to price in.